Hello everybody, it's Writing Tutor Sarah here, and today we're going to talk about brainstorming, organizing, and hopefully enjoying our writing process. So this is just brainstorming in general, but mostly, of course, it has to do with how we're writing our papers. But I thought I'd throw in some general brainstorming tips as well, because I think brainstorming is something we can do in a lot of different parts of our lives. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so before we do the brainstorming, first we gotta mentally organize. So if it's a topic you don't really know that much about, you can do some light research just to get a good feel for it. If there's a Canvas module or assignment, you make sure you read through that to ensure that you know what the prompt's asking of you. You want to set up your space that you're going to be brainstorming in for success. You want to make sure that we don't have any distractions. We have everything you could possibly need, so you're not sat there going, oh, I forgot a pencil, oh, I forgot some water, I'm thirsty. Make sure you have it all. Anything you can think of. Laptop, gum, pencil, paper, water, a snack, I don't know. And also just being okay with the fact that your ideas might end up unfinished. They might be half finished when you're done with your brainstorming process, and that's okay. We can fill them out more over time. This is a great video that one can use to better understand, ways to brainstorm for an essay. I'll have it linked in our video below, and I just thought this was a great, what's the term? Resource, the great resource to have.
Today I'm going to show you how...
I'm not going to have you show us today. No, thank you. Instead, we're going to talk about types of brainstorming. All right. So for here, I've got about 5 different ideas here about ways we can brainstorm. Of course, there's more than that. These are just the 5 I'm going to go over today. If you have a different way to brainstorm, by all means, first of all, share it with me. I would love to know. And second of all, go for it. What's stopping you? These are not the only ways to brainstorm. So today we're going to be talking about starbursting, SWOT or SWOT analysis, mind mapping, reverse thinking, and what we like to call the madman or the brain dump. I've seen a few different things spread out over time. Everybody calls it something different. Personally, I call it a brain dump. I know Professor Tenenhouse likes to call it a madman. So, So, we're going to start with starbursting. Basically, in the center of our little star, we've got our idea or our problem, what we're looking to figure out, right? So, maybe I'm trying to figure out what I want to do my research paper on. So, I decide broadly I want to talk about bugs. I want to talk about issues with bugs. What's the problem with bugs nowadays? A bug walks into a bar, the works. So then you put your idea or problem in the middle. This is your main focus point for your starburst, for your brainstorming session. You might have determined this during the pre-brainstorming process, right? When you're getting set up and figuring out your topic. This is very broad. Now, your brainstorming might be figuring out that topic in the middle. That's okay. You could do a mini brainstorm before this to be like, oh, what's my idea or problem? What are some things I like to talk about? And you could do a starburst for every single idea or problem you've come up with to see which one's the best one to write about. So, you're going to take your problem of bugs. What's the deal with bugs nowadays? And you're going to ask yourself, okay, who's involved in this problem? Maybe the bug experts, the entomologists are going to be the who. Maybe the bugs are going to be the problem. What kind of bugs? Are they specific? So who are we talking about? So in this situation, they're talking about products, but you could talk about a few different things with starbursting. It doesn't have to be a product that you're giving to Shark Tank or something. Like, it could be whatever you want. So in my beautiful research paper about bugs, I'm asking, okay, who is going to need this product? Maybe I'm talking to entomologists. Maybe I'm talking to the general public, warning them or trying to convince them to like bugs more, right, throughout my research or my commentary. Maybe it's about the bugs themselves. Maybe my audience is the bugs. What are we going to talk about the bugs? Like, we got the bugs, but like specifically what about the bugs? Maybe we have specific bugs. Maybe we're not just talking about crickets, we're talking about grasshoppers. Maybe we're deciphering between grasshoppers and crickets. Who knows? The world is your oyster. What are we talking about? Where? So maybe, where are you going to be looking for resources about the bugs, right? You can say, okay, well, where am I going to look? I could look on the Moorpark College database. Wow, maybe I'll find some bugs there. Maybe there's a special bug website I can look for. Don't be afraid to use the internet during the brainstorming process. That's okay. If you want to look at places where I can find information on bugs and I find some good places, I'll be like, cool. And then you can look at them more critically later, right? Maybe this is just you pulling resources to look at later. When, right? right? So what time period are we talking about? What part of the story or what aspect of bugs, like when are we talking about? Are we talking about present day? Are we talking about something that we want to discuss about future issues? Are we talking about the past? Are we saying we need to understand the past of bugs to better suit ourselves for the present and the future? Why are we talking about bugs? What's so good about the bugs? Why do we need a research paper about bugs, right? Why is your problem important? And why is it important to write an entire 8-page research paper about? And how? How is this going to impact the people that you're talking to, right? How are we impacting people with our problem of bugs? And these are all just ways to get multiple points of view about bugs before we actually start the process of writing and even researching. So this is the very beginning of our research process, is brainstorming, just to really get a good feel for the details about our idea or problem. You could also use SWOT analysis. You could use these together. You don't have to use one versus the other. You can use one and the other. So we've got SWOT analysis. So we're going to look at our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, our threats. I think this is great for assessing multiple potential problems that you want to talk about in a research paper to decide which ones are the most important and which ones you can write the most about, right? So you could be like, strengths. Okay, what makes this thesis stand out, right? What about the bugs is so important? This bug paper seems really strong because I feel like there's a lot of resources talking about bugs, but not a lot of people have commented on these resources. And I think that there's a really good space for people to talk about bugs. Maybe it's weak. What are some flaws that make it really hard to talk about bugs today? Maybe I'm sat here going, oh no, I can't find any resources about bugs. I think it's going to be really hard to prove my point with actual resources. The only thing I can find is AI chat filter on Google. And the AI chat filter is telling me all these fake facts about bugs. And that's kind of weak. That's not really great. And opportunities. What can you take advantage of? Is there a certain resource that you think is really going to make your paper like so much better, right? You're like, this resource is perfect for my paper. I think this resource could carry my paper. I could carry a couple paragraphs with this resource, or this database is specifically just for bugs, which tells me that there's enough research for bugs for me to really write a great bug paper. What's a threat? What could hinder this idea or keep the idea from working? It kind of goes with the weaknesses. It pairs together. It's like, oh, I don't have enough resources. Oh, I don't really know that much about bugs, so it would be a real pain in the butt to have to like do all this extra research for just this research paper, and I've got like maybe like I've got a million other things to be doing, and this is probably the hardest topic I could pick for my research paper, right? Because it's all about what you have the capacity and the time and the energy to write, right? If you have to write 10 pages, it better be something that you've got the energy to write 10 pages about, right? So to the best of your ability, within the parameters of the assignment, you want to make it as easy as possible for you. That way you can kind of up your enjoyment, right? So making sure that you know, that like, maybe your motivation keeps the idea from working. That's possible. And so it's good to, weigh those pros and cons. Let's talk about mind mapping. So another thing you could do, which again, I like using these all together because I'm a little crazy and I love the brainstorming process. It's my favorite part of the writing process. I take my topic. My central idea is bugs. And then later some ideas that connect to bugs. It could be different types of bugs. I could be like, oh, concept 2 is the ants, and here are the 3 things I'm going to say about ants. I'm going to talk about crickets, and here are the 2 things I want to say about the crickets. The 2 concepts about the crickets, or the ticks, or the ants, or, I don't know, I'm not very good with bugs, I'm going to be real. The butterflies, I don't know. I can't come up with 6 bugs off the top of my head, guys. Oh my gosh, why did I pick bugs? And that might be a process, and that might be something that you come across in your writing. You might go, oh my gosh, why did I pick bugs? I don't know anything about bugs, and I don't even know where to start with the bugs. And if you find yourself for 15 minutes sat here staring at the mind map going, I don't know what to do with bugs, you can either swap to a different brainstorming format to see if that helps, or pick another topic. It's okay to have to go back to the drawing board a little because the bugs didn't pan out. It's okay to leave the bugs behind if you have to. Then there's reverse thinking. So some people, myself included, depending on the assignment, do better to reverse how they're thinking about the assignment. This could be quite literal. It could be, okay, I'm going to do a broad thesis, but not an actual, like, drawn-in thesis. I'm going to write the paper, and then I'm going to rewrite my thesis to be more specific. Normally you'd think, oh, don't you need a thesis to write your paper? Yes, but you could come back to it later. You could say, okay, these are the broad points I want to hit, but I don't know how I'm going to write them yet, so I don't really want to really, like, pigeonhole myself into this specific thesis yet. I'm going to wait to write my thesis. Some people write the conclusion first. Some people write all the body paragraphs before they write the introduction. These are all very valid things, as long as the professor's okay with it, that you could do. Or some people go, well, I've got the quotes, I'm going to write the analyses, and then I'm going to write the paragraph around that. But some people do the opposite. They're like, I'm going to write the paragraph, and then I'm going to see where I can fit these quotes in. I'd say as long as you're double checking to make sure that this all fits with your prompt, it's okay to think in reverse. So instead of somebody asking, how do I solve this problem, right? You might ask, how do I cause these problems? What are things that cause these problems? Because if you're thinking of the cause, eventually you're going to come to the effect and the solution. How do I achieve these goals? Well, how do I achieve the opposite? If I can find the solution to achieving the opposite, chances are I can find the solution to actually achieving what you want to achieve. So sometimes it sounds a little weird, but it's okay to flip your thinking on its head and think about the opposite of what you're trying to do. It can help you come to the right answer. Then, my personal favorite, I do this no matter if I'm writing or if I'm just living my day-to-day life. This is called the Madman Brain Dump. I'm gonna throw them both together. Madman Brain Dump. The Brain Man. You're gonna set a 10 to 15 minute timer, and you are quite literally going to write anything that comes to mind about your topic. In this case, in my example, bugs. I'm gonna write everything I can think of. And if that's half the script of the B movie, so be it. Maybe I need to get the B movie out of my mind and onto the paper before the real ideas start churning. Maybe the B movie spurs me into writing a whole paper about how the B movie is both accurate and inaccurate to actual bees, right? I never would have got there if I didn't write half the B movie script down. Now, that might be, you might have to set a second 10 to 15 minute timer if you're writing the whole B movie script out. And I wouldn't go out of my way to write the whole B movie script. Maybe you just write down B movie script, haha, funny bees. And that helps you. It's okay. Sometimes you need to get it out of your brain so it's not clunking around in there. The more specific you can write down, the better. You could repeat this method with narrowed down topics to brainstorm about. If you're having trouble, if you're saying bugs is too broad, maybe you're suddenly going to talk about bugs that fly, flying bugs. Maybe you're going to talk about bugs on the ground. Maybe you're going to talk about a specific bug, like bees. This is also really good for organizing your thoughts in your everyday to-do lists. For that, I personally would go, okay, what are all the things I have to do this week? What are all the things that are more urgent this week? And then, okay, which of these can I handle today? Which of these am I ready and willing and maybe need to handle today? As you can see, this is an example of someone doing that for their chores. And you can tell they have a low priority, they have a high priority. They even have their brain dump next to it, a nice little bullet journal. You can brain dump in your bullet journal if you have a bullet journal. I do. But sometimes, you don't want to be alone. Two heads are better than one. Even if they're not in your class. Even if it's your mom. Even if it's your dog. Even talking out loud can help. But especially if it's someone who could talk back to you, sometimes you just need that second opinion. You need that person to look at you and go, bugs? Are you sure you're going to have enough to talk about when you're talking about bugs? And that's where group brainstorming can be really helpful. You can have a classmate or a friend or your mom, or I don't know, you can go to office hours and bounce it off of a professor, or come to us at the Writing Center. We love being the backboard for all of your great ideas, and we will help you point out the missing pieces to your ideas or add to your thoughts. Or we could just tell you, we could steer you in the right direction. If we see you talking about just the B movie, then you go, okay, well, how can we make the B movie relevant to the prompt? And that might spur you to come up with a really great thesis. And it will also give you that unique point of view, and that's also a reason why we peer edit. So if we're peer editing, why aren't we peer brainstorming? So I think that's a very viable option. Regardless of your method, please remember to pick a topic that feels right for both the prompt your professor's giving you, your intrigue in the topic so that you're motivated enough to write it, and what feels right for you. If you feel uncomfortable writing about the topic, it's okay to change it around a bit as long as it's following the prompt. If the prompt itself makes you uncomfortable, then of course I would recommend talking to your professor about alternatives. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about enjoyability. Remember, sometimes you could try new things, and those the new takes will kind of give you a really interesting point of view to think about. It doesn't work for everyone. Some people like the safety of, oh, I'm comfortable with this topic, so I'm more motivated to write about it because I'm less uncertain about it. But some people are like, I need something to entertain me, right? What's something I've never thought about before? And some people really like that. And sometimes that adds to your enjoyability. Everybody's different. I know that not everyone's going to want a new challenging take. Some people want a nice, comfortable take, and that's okay. As long as it follows your prompt, go nuts. If you can, as much as possible, write about a topic you like or intrigues you. If you're doing a research paper, they usually give you a lot of really great breadth for you to like try out what you want. I personally am a psych major, so when I did my research paper, I talked about the psychological effects on parenting. So parenting's impact on children growing up and their education. That was something that really interested me, and now I'm going for a PhD in it. So, you know, your research paper might set you up for a great career path. So if you want to do something that involves your career, go for it. If you're not an English major and you want to talk about a topic, that's what the research paper can be for. As long as you follow all the rules and follow the prompt, go nuts. Another great thing to try, it doesn't work for everybody. You could try the Pomodoro method. It's 15 minutes of focused work, 5 minutes of break, and then you repeat. This is supposed to keep you fresh and motivated to keep going. Now, personally, in my personal experience, it doesn't really work for me. For me, it's the aspect of setting that timer kind of makes me feel rushed, and then I don't really get anything done. I kind of get paralyzed. If I motivate myself and say, I'm just going to write one paragraph, I feel like that's a little more helpful to me, because it's not setting a timer on it, it's not setting a time limit, but it's telling me that before I stop, I have to at least finish one paragraph. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to stop at one paragraph. I'm going to get into this like great groove, and I'm just going to write the whole thing. Now, I know that's not logical for everybody. So if you're feeling like trying the Pomodoro method, it's not a bad method. It's just not one that always works. Everybody's a little different. You can also promise yourself a reward at the end of your work. This also doesn't work for me, because then I'll enjoy the reward too much and I won't go back to my work. It's a me problem. It's not an everyone problem. If you find after the first time of trying that the reward keeps you away from your work, then, you know, maybe you don't do that. But everybody's different. Feel free to experiment with what works and what helps you enjoy more, and also motivate yourself more to get the work done. Some organization tips. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, I just can't keep my thoughts organized. Well, again, the Madman's really great for that. You get all your thoughts down so you're not going to forget something, because you've got it all in one paper, and then you could go from there and categorize those thoughts based on some similar topics. Now, I have ADHD. I'm more of a visual learner, and so I have a problem. I have a whiteboard addiction. You might also have a whiteboard addiction. It's okay. If it works, it works, is what I say. And if you don't have a whiteboard, because those can be expensive, sticky notes work just as well. Have a thought, stick it on the wall. You can move the sticky notes around to group them together. That works. You could group things on your whiteboard. Whatever works for you. If all else fails, and you're finding yourself overwhelmed, stressed, tired, the works, you could try something that we like to call diffuse learning. Now, this is a very simple task, and this is like, you have to be like locked in. So if you've locked in for long enough and you're feeling like really drained, do your diffuse learning. You go for a walk, get a drink or a snack, take a shower, have a nap, go to bed for the night. This is basically a mental break for your brain, and while you step away from this task, the brain is going to be able to process the task subconsciously. So when you come back to the task, chances are you're going to have some new ideas. But here's the catch. Diffuse learning is only going to work if you've spent a lot of time locking in on the task, so you have to focus on the task first, before the break, and going on your phone does not count as a break if the break is short. Your brain will not diffuse when you're on your phone. Just like you're not supposed to go on your phone before bed, apparently. I don't follow that rule, but you should. It's actually something to do with health psychology. Not to get too deep into that. But yeah, here's my personal hot take. I have ADHD and OCD. I got the wombo combo. It's an old picture, but it is my whiteboard. I do still have the whiteboard. This is back when I was at Moore Park College. As you can tell, I'm taking a wide variety of classes to fill out my I Getsy. I love lists, but very often I lose them somewhere in the depths of my backpack. So here comes the whiteboard. It's big. It's right in my face. I put it right by my door, so I have to look at it every time I leave my room. That's how I stay on top of. At the time, I had 2 jobs, 6 courses, a lab, and everyday house chores. Now I have 4 jobs, 4 courses, but they're on a quarter system, so they're shorter. I still have a lab and everyday house chores. I'm kind of stretching myself thin this quarter, but I can make it possible for me with the whiteboard. How else do I know everything I need to do? I've got my chores. I've got, if I have work or school that day of the week. I've got some random like fun tasks I need. I've got what week we're on in the Canvas. I've got all, this time, this is when I had less assignments. I had all of the assignments listed. I've changed it up a bit. I also do have a daily to-do list on my iPad. I understand not everyone is fortunate enough to have the funds for like really fancy technology. I got really lucky on a scholarship and I used it to get a giant whiteboard and an iPad. So my cost-effective alternative, if you don't have these options, is you can quite literally just tape your to-do list onto your wall. It works just as well. Just tape it up there. And if you're feeling really fancy, you can put some bright colored sticky note memos up there. Draw your eye to the color. It still works for me. This is my current setup. I have changed what's on the whiteboards, but as you can see, I've got a little one that's got like my daily schedule and the month. As you can tell, it is not January anymore. Very dated picture. I'm a remote worker, so I clock in at times that I'm not actually working. It's kind of weird. For me, I forget what's in my fridge or I forget what to eat. I don't like making choices, so I'll make the choice ahead of time the night before what I'm going to eat, or at least some ideas. I've got a daily to-do list and like what classes I'm going to and what I need to do in between. Then this for the whole week, what I need to do roughly for my assignments, and then if I want to get ahead, I have another section. Currently, I'm going to turn away. I've got weekly readings, weekly assignments, and then midterm dates, because this quarter is a little more hectic than that quarter, if you can't tell. And the smaller whiteboard has my work tasks and what day I'm doing them, as well as, you know, any miscellaneous things I'm doing for the week, like the daily, like I'm going to do this today. Another personal favorite of mine is this, is it an app? It's a website. It's called My Study Life. I use it on my laptop, if you can't tell. And I am going to exit out of this, and I'm going to pull up My Study Life. Oh, I should have done that in a new tab. We're not going to talk about the fact that all of my reading is overdue. I did the notes for it, now I just have to read it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm really behind. Next, as you can tell, it tells me what's overdue. Not any actual assignments, I swear. These are all just the reading aspects of the assignments that I just have to do before the midterm. Upcoming readings that are due, upcoming assignments that are due. I've got a checklist so I can look ahead, do this week, do later the month, do a few months from now, and basically at the start of every quarter, I look through the syllabus and I put through every single assignment and reading I could possibly put through. And honestly, for me, it works really well. It tells me what I'm doing, it tells me what classes I'm taking, and yeah, I think that's pretty neat. So, anyways, this was back when I had office hours for this concept, so I'm gonna assume if anybody has any questions, you can always email us, you can make an appointment with us, we're always happy to help. That's all we got for today. I hope this helped you understand brainstorming and, you know, some organizing, and hopefully enjoy writing just a little bit better. A friendly reminder, if you're still finding yourself with questions, comments, concerns, you can always find us at the Writing Center. We're here to help you master all things to do with writing, including brainstorming and revising your paper. So stop by with the draft for us to look at, or with some questions about how to tackle your writing needs, because we are always happy to help. For more information on this topic and more, you can also visit our website for information and ways to meet a tutor to help you with all of your writing needs. Whether it be online, in person, or by email, we are always happy to help. And with that said, we hope to see you soon. Bye!